welcome to edition 62 of our Killa No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn, and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we start, we'll do our usual disclaimer. This isn't hero worship. We do this podcast because of mutual interest in serial killers. As long as we are doing this podcast, it stops us from writing to them in prison. I don't know why my throat's all husky.
It's nice. Sounds good. Yeah, normally mine sounds like that because I've got this cough I can't shift, but if I've been kissing me, I'm asleep again.
It's not hurting or anything, just sounds a bit weird.
Episode 62, only 7 more podcasts. We're up at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival as we're recording this.
Yep.
Sat on a leatherette sofa that's in my bedroom.
Is it leather? Is it leatherette?
No, you know what? I think it's leather.
I think it is leather. This is a very late 80s, early 90s kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's like it would be in like Jeremy Beagle's house when he made his money.
Definitely.
It's sort of like off-white and quite puffy.
Definitely. And there'd be sort of some sort of gold furnishing somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Gold taps everywhere.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm in the same venue this year for Edinburgh at the same time, which is brilliant as last year, 9:35pm. Bristow Square, Underbelly. Lovely audience, who's having a good time. Love my show. But shout out to Beyond Blighton, they're back in the dressing room.
Are they?
Hope they're still listening, guys. After last year's misunderstanding. They're back. So, yeah, have a good one.
Are you happy? You, I don't know if I should mention this, but your boyfriend came and surprised you the other day. So, a friend of the show, Will Duggan, was in charge of orchestrating this surprise. So, your wonderful partner came up and got let into the flat, and then Will just sort of didn't think to try and get you back to the flat. So, you went out for a drink with our producer.
The
only
night.
time you've been out, yeah. So, you came in at he was just sort of sat for 6 hours watching Stranger Things in your tiny bedroom.
But also, I don't understand why he didn't just tell me. He's like, well, it would have ruined the surprise. But it would have enhanced my evening because I could have left there and you'd come to surprise me. Or you could have come to meet me there.
Yeah, I can see why I didn't. But what was really nice is I went to bed because it was so late. I sort of wanted to stay up and see it, but I went to bed. And then my partner and I both got woken up by the sound of you hyperventilating with joy in the corridor. You go, can't believe it.
I was shocked.
It was like, you know, when soldiers come home and their dogs freak out. That's what it was like.
I was very, but as you
surprised me before.
As we rightly said yesterday, fair play to the lad. It could have gone either way with me.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, I was genuinely chuffed and surprised and happy, but there was also the potential for me to go, what the fuck are you doing here?
Checking up on me.
What, a week at the Fringe? you come here a week at the Fringe? What, this is the only time you've got because you're busy working, you just thought you'd make the most of it? Really? And I'm not busy. It could have gone either way. But it was lucky.
Yeah, so that's been really nice for you. I just accidentally
tender moment there between us.
Tried to hold Rachel's hand there by mistake. But this is a very untender moment because we're talking about Patrick Mackay.
Mackay.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Mackay.
Mackay.
And we're in Scotland.
Let's
get it right.
Yeah. He's got quite a few nicknames, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The Psychopath. Just keep it classic.
Straight to the point, yeah.
Yeah. The Devil's Disciple. Literally all sound like things I would refer to my exes as. And the Monster of Belgravia.
Belgravia.
Which sounds like what the people around there would call someone who keeps their Christmas lights up all year.
It really depresses me that seeing Christmas lights out of season. Or
Really?
Oh, you know, even when you just see a little bit of tinsel on a ceiling. You'll be in a pub and for some reason you look up and it's like August and you'll just see a little bit of tinsel in the corner that's not been taken down properly. Ugh.
What, you find it depressing?
Yeah, really depressing. I hate things out of the season that they're meant to be in.
I wear bones all year round.
Oh, Halloween.
Because I think they're in neutral.
Yeah, Halloween stuff, I think. Skeleton stuff like that. That's fine.
Okay.
To me, I think to us though, Halloween stuff is all year round. It's our perennial thing. Yeah. Anything creepy. In fact, I went to take a picture. There's an entire suit in a charity shop down there that's Halloween themed.
Really?
It's awful. Terrible. I just imagined your partner in it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
No, but as a
goof.
As a joke. Yeah, so anything I hate seeing Easter things out of season. I hate Christmas things is the one. It really annoys me when in July pubs will put a Christmas tree up to advertise Christmas do's.
Right. What do you think about those shops that are Christmas shops all year round?
It depressed me.
Oh, I love them.
Love them from early November to the 23rd of December. But no.
Really?
No.
Oh, I like them. I like stuff like anything that can make Christmas last longer.
And I think people that buy Christmas cards reduced in like January, they depress me.
Oh, that's me.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can get Christmas cards I really like then.
it's
So it's like, why the fuck am I paying 11 quid for 3 cards?
Oh, it just really depresses me. Really, I don't know. It's not for me.
Wow. What an
Yeah.
insight. So this is Patrick Mackay. He killed somewhere between 3 and 11 people.
I think he definitely killed more than he
He
was.
definitely killed the 3 that more than the 3 that he was convicted for. He was born in September 25th, 1952.
Yeah, he was born in Dartford in Kent. He had 2 sisters. His father was Harold. His mother was Marion, and she was of Creole descent. She was from Guyana in South America. His father met her, I think, when he was in the army.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a soldier in World War II, his dad, and he clearly suffered from PTSD. And he used to tell Patrick all kinds of stories about things that happened during the war. And he was an alcoholic, and he became very abusive towards Patrick and his mother.
Well, even when she was pregnant with Patrick, apparently they were having an argument and he kicked her in the stomach.
Ugh.
So when Patrick was still in the womb, he was drunk and he just like booted her, which is just such a horrible
Gross,
thing.
isn't it? Horrible. He wasn't violent towards his sisters, but I mean, who knows? I don't know. I also find it really strange when somebody's a violent person, but they only do it with certain members of the family. I don't understand what.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, if he's got PTSD, there's all sorts of stuff
Yeah.
going on that you can't understand.
Now, he dies very young, his father. So Patrick is 10 years old, and his dad's on his way to work, and he has a heart attack.
Yeah, which was apparently complications due to alcoholism because he had a weakened heart.
The last thing he said to Patrick was, "Remember to be good."
That's such a... when you hear about things like that where it's like, did you know you were going to die? You know, when they give like a good like
When
leaving...
somebody says something, yeah.
Not like, will you tell that milkman that if he doesn't want, that there's a proper good, like, and remember, kid, you'll be a star. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like a proper thing to leave someone on. I always think that some people sound like they knew that was going to be the last time they speak to them.
So when my granddad died, I was very close to my grandparents. My granddad wasn't very well for about a year before he died, and he was sort of, I think, maybe showing the first signs of sort of dementia, maybe, and there was issues, and that he wasn't like the same person after he'd been in hospital for a while. But the day that he died, I remember I was off work that day, and it was like he'd got a second wind, and he was
really?
he was like his old self, and he was doing it was like it was like the best of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like
a montage.
It's like he was doing the hits.
Really?
Yeah. So all the stories that it was really funny that he used to tell, he was telling, and like jokes that he used to do that we always used to really laugh at, he was doing. And then it was really, really strange. And then he died that evening. But I'd been saying, God, it's like the best of today. What's going on here? So that
Really?
yeah. It was great. It was lovely.
Yeah, what a lovely way to go
really
out.
really nice way to. Lovely last day with somebody. But yeah, it was like he was doing the hits. The best of Grandad.
Didn't encore though, did
No, he didn't encore. I'll be honest with you. I would have fucking shit myself if he did.
The whole time, as soon as she had great hits, I was like, don't make the encore joke. And I'm glad I did now. Safe space.
It's done. Where are we up to? Oh, yes.
My dad's obsessed with death. It's his like favourite thing to talk about, aspire to. And he keeps going, I'm going to write you a letter, Kiri. And I was like, right, okay. So he just keeps telling me, he's like, I'm going to write you a letter that you can read when I'm gone. And I'm like, right, okay. I'm like, when's it going to come out, like BTK? He's like, I just want to let you know how proud I am. I'm like, all right, well, write the fucking letter then. And I know he will die without writing this letter. It's classic my dad is like, have the intention to do a nice thing and then just talk about the nice thing and feel good for doing it and then not doing it.
Do it.
You know, like that thing is you're not meant to say, I'm going for a run, because when you say I'm going for a run, your brain gets the same reward as if you've been for a run. So it's like, oh, we went for a run, pat, pat, pat.
It's like these people that talk about going to the gym or talk about
Yeah.
CrossFit or talk about the keto diet, but don't actually do it. I think they think that talking about it is
the same thing as doing
the equivalent
it. Fucking comedy
of doing it. Oh my god.
Yeah, people who talk the talk and don't do it.
Have a look around this festival.
Yeah.
Have a look
There's
around
about
this
2,000 shows.
I'll be honest. There's some people. I mean, don't. It's a difficult thing to do, Edinburgh, isn't it? And we're, you know, it's like, as you build it up and you build it up, it takes you a long time. And
yeah, even when it goes well, it's difficult.
Yeah, it takes you a long time to be able to be in a great venue and sell tickets. And
Yeah.
it's a nice feeling, but it comes from graft.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for some people who've just rolled up here and...
Yeah. But even if you do all that graft, this is what I was talking about with my partner and stuff, my sketch group the other day, that what I find like chilling is the gulf between the best Edinburgh you can have and the worst. So the best is like I saw two comics who had like famous comics who are like whole run sold out, so they can just go and see shows, or just, you know, one of them, their kids coming up, that kind of thing, and it's just like, oh, I'm just here for a bit. And then the other side of it is like someone we're in a venue with who's fucking brilliant, and most people sell out on a weekend. I had like 2 people in, so just doing a brilliant show that no one gives a fuck about, and that is not like normal. And then there's some people who are doing a shit show that people are seeing, and there's some people doing a shit show that no one's seeing. Like the gulf of it, like just the kaleidoscope of experiences you can have here, and even in the same week, where you can have like fucking that's the best show we're ever gonna do, and then the next day be like, that was horrific, I want to quit comedy.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, marathon of sprints.
As much as I enjoy doing my show, in half running a gauntlet of cunts you don't want to bump into, innit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. The amount of times I've just rung my mum to say, look, I just need to speak to you on the phone because I might bump into people.
Yeah.
And this. I might just start ringing the speaking clock. I honestly...
There's loads of lovely people.
There's loads of great people that you
but then
do
you're
want
like,
to see.
You know, trying to avoid those like 7 poisonous assholes who are buffeting around.
And it's just... Yeah, you just don't want to collide with them, do you?
No.
But I suppose it's the same in every business,
every big gathering.
Yeah.
Like, if there's an AGM, even a school reunion, you'd be like, oh, I can't wait to see this person. God, I wonder if that person's still a fucking arsehole.
Yeah, definitely.
Although I imagine I am that person that most people say that about. What if she's still a fucking arsehole?
Yep. I don't think you need school reunions anymore because of Facebook.
I've noticed that our school has not pushed for one.
I certainly wouldn't go to one.
I think it's because the people who would organise the reunion aren't doing as well as they thought they would.
Yeah, there's...
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was organising it and then I went bankrupt, so give me another 5 years too. Now, so that was the last time he saw his dad when he said, remember to be good. He didn't attend the funeral because the funeral was held in Scotland, and he doesn't handle it very well because he keeps telling people that his dad is still alive, and he carried a photograph of him, so he found it quite difficult to deal with.
It's weird, isn't it? Especially as he was so abusive.
Yeah. But Patrick then decides that because his dad's dead, and he's 10 years old, bear in mind, he's the man of the house. So the first thing he starts doing is abusing his mum and his sister.
If a 10-year-old is like, I'm the man of the house and tries to punch me, I mean, I just lock him in his room. Like, you're 10. Who the fuck are you talking to? He's quite a big boy, though, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's quite big. But he takes over his dad's chair as well.
That's quite a big deal.
That is bold.
Yeah, in our house, like, my dad definitely has a chair that's closest to the television, and there's sort of like a dirty patch on the wall where he falls asleep and his dirty, filthy head goes on it. And, like, part of me wants to paint over it, but part of me finds it quite charming.
What
This little filth stain.
Those those things you put on the back of a chair?
Oh, yeah, weren't they? Because people didn't wash it back in the day, and it's to stop it smelling.
It was a mixture of that, but also when men started using Brill cream.
Yeah, of course, it was staying the
It
thing.
was staying the thing, yeah.
What are they called? Because sometimes...
Like a head doily, that's what I
Yeah,
was.
head doily, yeah. I mean, that's definitely not what it's called. There's the...
A head doily sounds like I've seen somebody with religious beliefs. I don't understand why they're wearing a particular hat, and that's what I've decided that it is. You know those blokes, they wear the head doilies.
Sometimes I've noticed, like, if you're on a train and you walk through the first class section, that's the only difference, because you expect, like, first class, you know, to get free shit, that they've just got one of those head doilies on the thing, and you're like, I've paid 70 quid more to have a head doily, for fuck's sake.
You know those head doilies, though? When I've been in first class, and I am one of these people, genuinely, if I can afford it, I just go first class.
Really?
Yeah, I do not want to sit.
I feel like an absolute cunt. I did it on the way up to Edinburgh and I felt disgusting.
I am more than happy to do it. I have no shame in it whatsoever. But the head doilies, because I'm so small, my head never touches
Really?
them. Never. So they're just there.
It's like an aspirational thing. You get to look and go,
Whoa.
one day, mum, I'll get to have a head doily.
Yeah, I've got no shame. If I can afford it, I'll always go. I will be like, yeah. If it's 20 quid more, definitely.
Yeah, 20 quid more is fine. Well, no, actually, I'm always like, that's a takeaway, innit?
And I don't think the range of freebies is as good as it could be.
God, no.
Like Virgin Trains think they're it, don't they?
Yeah.
And what do you get? A crap sandwich.
The breakfast I had was
Oh, I saw that
fucking
breakfast.
dog shit. It's the most anemic looking vegetables you've ever seen. Anyway, we cannot sit here and moan about first class travel on a podcast. I will fucking... You're right to delete us and unsubscribe, actually. So, 13 years of age, he's had loads of sort of run-ins. He's well known now as a bully and a thief and a liar.
Well, when he was at school, one of his teachers actually said he has the potential... He's a potential murderer of women.
Really?
That is one of the most brutal school reports I've ever heard.
But it also sounds a bit like... It feels like it might be a go-to phrase. You know, like people like, oh, my teacher told me I would never amount to anything. It feels like a go-to phrase. That there's probably like also like, he's a danger to women is also just on the school report.
Or maybe it's a positive. Maybe it's like, he has the potential to be a murderer of women.
You know what? If Patrick could just harness his potential, he could actually murder some women.
And work on his knife skills.
So at 13, he gets put in a psychiatric ward, doesn't he?
Oh, can we tell the story about him? Right. So this is what one of the things that he did. He used to push girls over. He'd had tantrums. He was stealing things all the time. This is an actual story from one of his school friends. He said his friend said, we were walking through the forest. He picked a bell-shaped flower. He pissed in it and drank the wee.
That's mad, isn't it?
But in front of him, whilst looking
Spring
in the
break.
Very much so.
Doing a shot of his own piss.
I just don't...
It's just one of those things that, like, it does remind me of, like, you know, those wild card lads at school who are like, dare me to piss in that flower and drink it, and you're like, no, and they just do it anyway.
They just do it anyway.
Like, did you just want to piss in that flower and drink it? Like, it seems like he's got almost like intrusive thoughts, but there's nothing to stop him acting on them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, I could just piss in that and drink it. Looks like I'm doing it.
It's happened. Cruel to animals as well. He used to fondle dead birds.
Well, no, he tortured his pets. He had a tortoise that he set fire to, and he would torture cats. And yeah, he was apparently when he burnt that tortoise, it sounds horrific. He just threw the shell into next door's garden, which isn't the worst part of that story, obviously.
Litterbug.
And he litterbug, such a charming
It's
phrase.
funny, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, he used to fondle dead birds, which is just really fondle. The word in that context is really creepy. I wish you could come to my house. I've got fucking magpies so at my house. Something to do with the double glazing. There's like a reflective layer in it that we can't see, but birds can. So every morning I get woken up by basically like 3 magpies pecking the window or throwing stones at it. And it's the creepiest. It's like, oh, brilliant, I've been cursed, have I, in the night?
Magpies, they are. I like magpies. They're a bit cheeky, aren't they?
Oh, they're proper like, oh, like geezer. They're like the way they like hop around.
They've got a real edge to them, haven't they?
Yeah, the fact that they're just like, I like shiny things, what can I say? Like, I love that it's just weird, isn't it, that they collect shiny
You do
stuff.
you, babe, I'll do me.
I love them though. They're like, they are cheeky, but it's terrifying to be woken up by like
And that sort of noise, the clicking noise.
It's strange, isn't it? So my brother says at the moment there's 11 living in the garden.
Oh my God. What's 11 magpies?
Oh God, an abortion? I don't fucking know.
I don't think there is anything for 11.
There has to be. Okay, I'm going to Google it now.
The thing about magpies, they are cheeky. They're a bit, aggressive. They're good looking though, aren't they? And they know
they are handsome. Yeah,
they're good looking.
Well, they're always turned out well, aren't they? They're really pretty. I'd love a stuffed one.
I've got one.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, they're so nice. Here we go. Lyrics. Where do we stop at?
Lyrics.
10.
10. What's 10?
10 for a bird. You must not miss.
10 for a bird.
Can't miss it, mate. It's throwing stones at my fucking window 7 o'clock in the morning. I like them. They're really clever though, aren't they? You can train them. Like, what else is that family? Like,
I think we should train and put them in the army. I think they'd be fucking great. They've got no fear.
Yeah.
Just like little helmet on. Straight out there.
What are the ones that are in the Tower of London that are the size of dogs?
Oh, the ravens.
They're fucking weird,
They're huge,
aren't they?
Yeah. They're nice. They're very nice.
They're just... But they, like, stagger around because they're so massive.
They are big.
They've got that rolling walk that I have when I put on too much weight after Christmas. Do you know what I mean? Where you can't walk straight, where you got to roll each leg round each other. That's what they're like. I follow that Raven Master on Twitter.
He follows me.
Really?
When he followed me on Twitter, I nearly lost my shit. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe the Raven Master of the Tower of London's following me.
I had that the other day. The Welsh Rugby Union followed me on Twitter,
Really?
and I nearly burst into tears. Yeah, if you don't follow him, there's the Raven Master on Twitter. He's brilliant. So he's a Raven Master at the Tower of London, and he does little videos of his ravens.
Oh, and he posts
things.
lovely pictures of them.
Yeah, they are good looking lads, aren't they?
Yeah, and
Which bird would you go out with?
He really loves them, doesn't he?
Really loves them.
I think it has to be a magpie.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you not think it's a bit of a geezer, and we'd have like 3 girlfriends?
I love
That's
a bit of a
your
geezer.
type,
Actually,
yeah.
not anymore. It's not my type, is it? I've sort of outgrown that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think magpie, or I don't know.
I'm quite partial to. So at the farm in Wales, we've got like a heron that lives on the thing. It's creepy. When I see it fly, it looks like a dinosaur. It's too fucking big. I don't like that.
Pelicans, I think, look like actual dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're
really.
weird looking, aren't they? Pheasants, there's pheasants all over the farm, and they're really charming.
They're nice,
There's one called the bowling ball, we call it, because it's fat as fuck. It looks like a bird has swallowed a bowling ball. So I think I might go out with a pheasant. Because it'd be a bit of a like, oh, a bit of a country bumpkin, but I mean well by it. And like when they're panicking on the road, walking in front of you.
What about a vulture?
No, I think they're fucking creeps.
I think
they look like a walking scab.
I think a vulture would be an incel.
Yeah,
don't you
absolutely.
think?
Little fedora on.
Oh, yeah, no, vultures, no chance.
A T-shirt with a picture of, when you could pause Street Fighter so you can see Chung Lee's knickers. That picture on the front of their T-shirt. Anyway, 13, he gets put in a psychiatric ward because he attacked... he was attacking his mum, and I think he'd attacked a boy at school. He tried to kill them.
Yep, and he tried to set fire to a church.
And he tried to... Oh, that was why he put him in the end, yeah. Because they said if we hadn't have... he said, I would have killed him if it hadn't been restrained about that boy. Sets fire to this Catholic church, and then they're like, right, let's just put him somewhere safe for a bit. So he goes... By this point, he's 13, but he's 6 foot tall. He's a really big boy. So he must have been quite big at 10. And apparently the weird thing is when he went in there, he took a teddy that he would sleep with every night.
You'd think that's weird, but he's only 13.
Yeah, but he is also setting fire to churches, Rachel. So it does seem a bit a bit of a contrast.
It is juxtaposed, but... I mean, I used to sleep with a teddy. I've mentioned this until I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, but
I wasn't setting fire to
you weren't
churches.
setting fire to stuff. And
I was thinking about it.
Yeah. Good job you didn't have it taught to us. So he's in and out of psychiatric wards then, and juvenile houses and prisons. So my thing there is he would have been institutionalised before he was even sort of like, well, he was barely a teenager.
Well, the thing that his mum used to do was he'd get committed to these institutions, and then she'd campaign for him to come home. So he never really...
Maybe she just liked writing letters.
He never really got the treatment that he could have got because...
I mean, what's to say that... I agree, but what's to say that any of these places in, like, the 60s would have actually helped him?
I think, as well, for his sisters, it must have been really like... I bet they were constantly like, oh, thank God he's away. And it's like, Mum, why are you... bringing him back?
Whirling dervish into our house. He was diagnosed as a psychopath at 15, which feels like, again, in the 60s when things were a bit of a... Like, you have to be a full-on psychopath to be diagnosed then.
Yeah.
His doctor, Dr. Leonard Carr, said he referred to him as a cold psychopathic killer, and that was at 15.
There was Dr. Leonard Carr... there was a police officer as well, and one of his teachers. They all predicted that he would go on to kill.
Imagine that.
So all these people said he's going to kill somebody.
I can't think of anyone through like school that there was like, oh God, he's going to kill someone one day.
There was someone I went to school with that I 100% knew that they would die young.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Because they're reckless behaviour?
Yeah.
Oh God.
This is really awful as well. They weren't a very nice person. Even at a young age, they were...
You can tell that. Sometimes when someone dies and they're quite young and then the school's like, we're very sad that this has happened to a pupil. Yeah, they can't find anything else good to say.
He wasn't a very nice person. And then he actually died in, I think it was a car or motorbike accident in his sort of early 20s, which is obviously tragic. It's an awful thing, but it was just one of those things like he just went, I kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, it was on the cards.
Yeah, absolutely knew. I used to think he's never going to be an old man.
Really?
Because he was just so off the rails.
Fuck.
So off the rails. But I've never met anyone that I think you could murder somebody.
I don't know if I should talk about this, but there's a guy who was in our school, which is quite, quite rough comp, but ultimately in rural Wales. And he was a couple of years older than me, and he used to sort of knock around with really sweet people, kind of the very nerdy nerds who probably get picked on by the rough kids. From, I'd say, about 3 or 4 years, all knocked around together. So rather than hang around with people in their year, they would all, at break time and lunchtime would convalesce together. Congregate. Maybe convalesce.
We're getting better together.
Well, it is in the mountains, isn't it? So it's good air. And there was one guy, I guess he would have been the eldest, he would have been sixth form when they were in sort of years 7, 8, 9. I won't say his name, but yeah, he used to knock around. He was just sort of I'd let on to him, and it was just sort of benign, kind of, I can't even describe him, just sort of a bit posh kind of nerd, but not glasses wearing nerd, just sort of Lord of the Rings nerd. And then my friend told me recently that he'd, I don't know if I've told this before, but he just, in a park in Bangor, so a load of students cut through it at night, he'd been really violently raping women for years, and he got arrested for it, and he's in prison for it, and the judge said if you're out, you're a danger to women.
Oh my god.
And it was this thing of reevaluating what you thought this person was, and be like, oh yeah, it was weird that this 17-year-old was hanging around with very young, ostracized, predominantly women, and he's, I guess he's, when you look back, classic women rejected me kind of. Yeah, it's chilling. It's really chilling.
In plain sight.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But I don't think anyone would have called that of him teacher or, so how do you spot that stuff? It's easy when it's a tearaway who's stealing
it's easy when someone's setting fire to a tortoise to know.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But what about the other stuff that happens that, means that someone behaves like that? Or here's an easy sign they should have seen with Patrick. Starts collecting Nazi memorabilia and became obsessed with it.
He referred to himself as Franklin Bolvolt the First.
Jesus Christ.
And he was buying loads of Nazi memorabilia. And
he said of that name, he said, I want a name to be feared and remembered like Hitler's. Well, pick a shorter name. Yeah. Hitler's at least pithy, isn't it? It's easy to remember.
It's to the point.
Yeah. 2 syllables. Done.
Franklin Bolvolt the First. It sounds like Franklin Bolvolt the First sounds like a name that someone in a band has given themselves. A really shit.
Or you ironically call your Teddy.
Yeah. Or those people that get pets and call them things like that. I'm going to say something awful here. And I'm sorry if this is you. People who give their pets full names and a title, like Mr. Bob Smith, the
Vulnerable.
fish.
All right. So you mean Esquire?
Yeah, just shit like that. Just give your dog a name. Don't give it a surname.
I mean, you have to at the vets.
Yeah, the vets.
So they give them your surname. Yeah. My vets are really bad at taking my ex's name off the thing, every time. So I have to be they're like, we can't find them on the system, and I have to be you're gonna check them under a name, and I'm gonna ask you for the 8th time to remove it from there.
You're actually triggering him now.
Yeah,
that's his ex-father.
That's why the dog's shat in here.
Yeah, but I just can't abide. Anyway, there's a bit in my show that explain a lot about this, and I'm right.
I think you've alienated about 60% of our listeners there, but
yeah, I mean, I'm glad you got pets, and I'm glad you're happy, but have a look at yourself. Just if you want a pet, get it.
It's weird.
Ringo the dog. There you go. Ben.
It's weird that this is the bit you're getting so wound up about. He also gets a stormtrooper uniform.
Wow.
And he used to wear in public.
Oh my god.
So that's really sort of you're not sitting on the fence there, are you?
Ballsy.
Well, I think this is all happening in late 60s, early 70s. That is very much living. Most of those people around there would have been in the war.
Jesus Christ. It's evocative.
Yeah, exactly that. So he's released in the summer of 1972. He's drinking fucking loads. He started dabbling in drugs as well.
He just starts hanging around London. It says people said he was often drunk and on drugs.
Yeah.
And
he's getting drunk and rages, and in one of them he tried to strangle a woman.
Fucking hell. He's also thieving as well.
Yeah.
There's a huge spate of handbag thefts and, pickpocketing in sort of posh areas of London, like Knightsbridge, Belgravia, and the police have noticed that there's a sort of a spike in crime, and it's often against elderly women who are having things stolen. So they're investigating that. In the meantime, it's 1973. There's a priest, Father Anthony Crean, who lived in Gravesend near his mother. He lived in a little sort of village area. Now, Patrick starts being friends with him.
They met while they were walking in the fields.
Yeah.
It's like it's Claire Balding.
Oh, don't mention Claire.
Well, did Susie message you?
Yeah.
I saw Susie last night, and she said, I listened to the latest Susie Ruffle, brilliant comic.
She's great.
She's so funny. She said, I listened to all Killa, Filla, and then she was like, I sat next to Claire Balding for dinner.
Yeah, she sent me a message. She went, she was lovely. I was like, ooh.
You just want to be held by her, don't you?
I mean, I think that's two people to sit next to, Claire Balding, Susie Ruffle.
Oh my God, what a party.
Cracking people to sit
Absolutely
with.
top shelf lesbians.
Yeah.
Those. Showbiz lesbians.
Showbiz lesbians.
They're right at the top.
Sue Perkins as well. Pop Sue Perkins on there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sarah Paulson.
We
haven't got time for this.
No.
So
Pop Sarah Keyworth on there as well.
Yeah.
What a table.
What a table.
Stylish, funny. I think that's my perfect dinner party.
So yeah, the 63-year-old priest, he sort of maybe he just sees something in him, but he's certainly trying to sort of like take care of him, isn't he?
Yeah,
is the vibe.
My feelings about the church, I'll give this priest the benefit of, at least he was doing what he's meant to be doing, which is helping those clearly in need. So
you watch, we're going to get some messages.
Oh yeah, also, someone sent me a message. Now, please, if you want to send me a message, send me a message. But I got sent a message by somebody a lot younger than me, very patronising, I mentioned something about Catholicism. I was brought up as a Catholic. What was it she said to me? She said something like, the way you come across and say things. If you said those things about Muslims, it's like, hang on a minute here. I can see what's happening. Right, one, I'll say what I want about something that I have experience of. But secondly, don't make everything into being about Islam.
Yeah, because you hate Muslims.
Yeah, you just wanted to message me to tell me that you don't like Muslims. Now, it's the first time.
I guess if you're in the church, you can probably feel like, why does everyone pick on us? And it's like, well, because you are predominantly in like the Western world, the dominant religious force.
Yeah, and I think with the message I got, it's like, it feels like you're picking on us. But it's like, I'm not picking on you. I'm talking about an experience that I had about something that I grew up within. And really, if you feel like I'm victimising you, have a look at your behaviour. You're messaging me, telling me off.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Like, most of the messages I get are lovely. Usually from women going, oh, I enjoyed you on this, or love the latest podcast. It's all very positive. That's the only really negative interaction that I've had that has really pissed me off. And my last word was, listen to the podcast if you want, but don't continue to bother me with this, because I don't have the time or the inclination to be interested in it.
That's one less listener.
Couldn't give a fuck.
Well, no, I think it's that's the other thing as well, is like, no one is forcing you to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, and also, we do a podcast about absolutely awful people that commit dreadful murders. If the thing that you're going to take from it is me having an opinion on why I have issues with the Catholic Church, then you're a massive cunt. And that's how I feel about it. And I'd rather you didn't listen.
Well.
Maybe go to confession and tell the priest how you've been obnoxious. Is that a sin? It should be. Or if it was, I'm fucked. Anyway.
So, he ended up burglaring? How do you say?
Burglarising.
Burglarising, yeah. I think his... Patrick ended up burglarising Anthony, the priest's home. He stole a cheque that he then tried to cash that didn't work, and they ended up he got a £50 fine for it, which he never paid, and because he never paid it, the priest was like, well, you've never atoned for it, so they fell out over that.
Well, actually, the priest, Father Anthony, at first, when the police were going to prosecute him, he'd said, I'd rather he didn't prosecute him, and he kind of wanted to sort it out.
Yeah.
You know.
He reminds me of the bishop at the beginning of Les Mis.
I've never seen it.
Read it? No. It's good. Don't watch the film.
I don't think it's my bag.
It is good.
War-y, isn't it?
No.
French Revolution.
There's a bit. No, but that's not. No. Yeah, but it's not really about that, I don't think. That's the backdrop.
All right. Okay.
There's basically what happens is there's 7 characters that they introduce one by one, and then they kill them one by one, and the shittest ones live. That's the worst thing about it.
Oh, that sounds like the kind of thing I might like then.
Yeah, it's actually quite heavy. It's quite,
Might give it a go.
Weirdly, the worst casting in the film is Russell Crowe, who's an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. He's such a bad singer. But his part is fucking amazing. It's so cool. It's basically like a policeman who's really religious, who meets this convict who's bought himself a new life basically, and is just trying to be a good guy to make up for the past. And then he finds out he's this convict from years ago that he knew, who sort of lied about his identity. So he's trying to track him down, and the guy's like, but I'm a good guy now, and he's like, it doesn't matter, you lied, and it's that black and white about it. And when the convict I think saves his life or does something, he realizes that he's good, and he's like, fuck, I have believed that it's always been black and white and the Lord will guide me. So if that's not true, he just fucking kills himself.
Oh,
it's amazing. He basically has this kind of well, that was my whole belief system, and if that isn't true, and then just throws himself into a river.
Dramatic.
But he's got 2 great songs.
Oh, well, I might give that a go.
Yeah.
Where are we up to? Oh yeah. So now it's a very small community that Father Anthony lived in. It's a place called Sean. He lived in a house with 12 nuns, and he had a Jack Russell as well, called Jack. He was always with his dog. My auntie had a Jack Russell called Russ.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
This obviously caused a rift between Mackay and Father Anthony. So he returned to London, and so the police are still investigating these robberies, and the robberies spike again in Belgravia. And in January 1974, Stephanie, this one. I don't think he was charged with this, was he?
What?
So he's obviously committed other murders.
Definitely.
Than the ones he's been charged with. Because in January 1974, Stephanie Britton and her 4-year-old grandson, they were stabbed to death in Hadley Green in London. And Mackay also admits around this time that he said he threw an elderly vagrant to death from the Hungerford Bridge in Lambeth.
Yeah. So it starts in July 1973, he kills an au pair, Heidi how do you pronounce that? Nilk. Do you just not pronounce the Milk, yeah.
Milk.
He threw her from a train near New Cross.
Fucking hell.
Now, the same month, he kills Mary Hines. Have you got that? In 1973. That's in her flat in Kentish Town. He stuffed her stockings down her throat and strangled her. Now, he starts living with loads of friends. He starts living with housemates in Finchley. And then, but while he's there, he's behaving fucking weird. He starts saying that he's possessed by demons, and they're like, "Okay, Patrick." And then his behaviour sort of escalates from there. So in January of 1974, Stephanie Britton. It's hard because this is a mixture of ones he was convicted for and ones he confessed to that he later recanted. But Stephanie Britton and her 4-year-old grandson, who he wasn't charged with. He stabbed them both to death on Hadley Green, and then a few days later he throws that homeless person off Hungerford Bridge. Now, February, just the next month, 1974, Isabella Griffith. She lived in Chelsea, so these are kind of quite rich old ladies, aren't they?
She was her husband. She was a widow. Her husband had been a surgeon. She lived on a street called Cheney Walk, which apparently is a very affluent street. Now, they think that what he was doing, she was probably coming back from the shops, and he might have gone, "Oh, can I help you with your shopping? So you're not struggling." And he gets into the house and he physically assaults her, and he strangles her,
And he stabs her with a kitchen knife in the stomach, but she dies from the strangulation.
Yeah, so she was dead. They think she was dead before the stabbing. So after this, he stabs her to death. He drags her into the kitchen, leaves her in there, and he stayed in the house for ages. He just sat around doing stuff, listening to the radio, all that kind of thing. And it was 2 weeks until they found a body.
Oh, Jesus.
I hate that kind of thing.
The widow's curse.
It's just really sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Just so you know what's happened there is my boyfriend has got up in nothing but his pants.
And a rucksack.
So what's happening at this time is there's loads of what the police are referring to as unconnected slayings. So there's basically loads of murders going on. And I see why they're unconnected, because they're erratic. It's sort of varying MOs. He does strangle a lot, but, you know, I imagine there's a fair bit of crime. It is not the same age or type of person. So he gets kicked out the flat for weird behaviour. In fact, he what he used to do is he was building models of Frankenstein, and so he'd build this miniature model of Frankenstein's monster, rather, and then burn the eyes out of it, which seems just like a lot like...
Wasteful.
Yeah, it feels like a waste of time.
Speaking of strange housemates, my boyfriend told me that he lived in a shared house in London quite a few years ago, and there was a girl in there who was into witchcraft, and she was saving little vials of her blood, little bottles, and he said one day he came home and there was a vial of blood on the doorstep. He was like, "What is this?" And seriously, he's like, "Why is there a thing of blood on the doorstep?" She went, "Oh my God, no, oh no, they've done it to me, they've cursed me, oh, we need to do something." And he was like, "Oh, fuck this." I think they asked her to move out in the end.
Jeez Louise.
She was sort of weeing in buckets and leaving them.
What?
I mean, she was clearly mentally ill, wasn't she? But she was
I don't know.
involved in
I think that like witchcraft is. I see it as sort of like each to their own. You know, like there's white witches and stuff, and they just sort of crack on with sage and that stuff. I sort of think that's benign, but I think if you're in a house share and you're pissing in a bucket, that sort of tips into different territory, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
So he was kicked out of this flat. And as he was kicked out, he was like, "Right, I'm fucking burglaring it all." Sorry, we're being heckled by the emergency services. By our brave boys.
This street here is terrible.
So bad. There's constantly someone on fire or being chopped up in Edinburgh, and they all on this road. So yeah, So they kick him out, but as they kick him out, he's like, "Right, well, I'm stealing everything." So he burgles the flat on the way out, and then he gets 6 months for that burglary. He's released in the autumn of 1974, and he would basically make money by snatching purses and mugging elderly people.
Mm-hmm. I've got a real... I think all crimes are awful, but when it's about...
That's your thing, isn't it? Old people.
I can't bear it. Like, you know when you see all these awful, like, documentaries about people in care homes being...
Oh, yeah.
I can't bear it. Can't watch. I remember watching something like, it was 24 Hours in A&E, and it was an old chap that'd fallen back, and I can't deal with it. I just can't watch anything to do with old people.
Do you think it's because you're so close to grandparents?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Really?
I get upset thinking about it. I can't do it.
Really?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Really, really.
It is horrible when there's that, you know, there'll be a mugging, it'll be like some 94-year-old who's been battered or something.
I think it's awful. Absolutely awful. And I think... as well, like Isabella Griffith being 2 weeks until someone found her.
Yeah, it's
just really sad, isn't it? It's really lonely.
So he kills 3 more people whilst doing these muggings because they start to escalate in violence, and because they're elderly, it's that thing of like, you don't know if it was the shock that killed them. And so then 10th of March 1975, Adele Price, she lives in Lowndes Square. He persuaded her to let him into her flat. She's an older lady as well, isn't she? I think she's in her 80s or 90s. Yeah. He strangled her, again, stuck around for a bit. He dragged her into a room and locked the door. Imagine being 80, living through 2 world wars, and then being fucking bumped off by some absolute... I know. It's not fair, is it? No, it's just not fair. It's like, no one should go that way. So he put her in a room and locked the door. He stuck around for a bit. But as it was, I think it was sort of a huge house made into flats. Her granddaughter who lived with her came home, and as she's going up the stairs, she sees a man leaving. It was like a shared entrance, so she didn't think anything of it. Yeah. But she'd not seen him before. So she goes around the house looking for her grandma, and she found the door was locked. So she was like, right, raise the alarm. And then as police arrived,
They find her, she's been murdered, obviously. But quick-thinking police officer realised, he said, well, if that door was locked from the outside and she was dead in there, this is a murder scene, so we're going to close everything off. They linked the two murders of Isabella Griffith.
There's some really good police work on this, I think.
They're pretty
especially
shit
for the
hot.
time.
Yeah. And Adele, they linked those, and they put 50 extra police officers drafted in to help the murder squad, because they were like, right, somebody's definitely...
Jeez. I think it's because it was rich ladies.
I don't know. I think...
Well, probably not if they didn't get found, because who's making a fuss?
Yeah. No, I think it might possibly because it was elderly. I think...
Or they're just doing their jobs and I need to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Which makes a change. So, 21st of March 1975. Again, I've one of my notes says still only 22 here.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely can't believe that
how young
he's done
he is,
all this stuff. So he goes back to Sean to see the priest, and the alarm gets raised. One of the nuns saw that the dog, Jack, I'd forgotten the dog's name, had come home, or thought, she assumed, like, why is the dog here and he's not? So she raises the alarm. One of the funniest bits of this, I find, is that the alarm is raised and all the police at Gravesend are at a black tie dinner. But they get the news that someone's missing and they immediately leave to help and go to turn up in the tuxedos.
That's so great.
They get to the priest's house and they hear a nun screaming, which nobody wants to hear.
No.
Very jarring image, that.
Yeah.
A nun screaming. And they go into the house and they're greeted by, which a lot of the officers involved in it said, one of the most horrific murder scenes they've ever seen. So Father Crean was in there. He was dead. He was in the bath. He had his Wellington's duffel coat and a hat on.
Was there water in the bath? Or
There was water in the bath, yeah. And
he'd been attacked with an axe.
Yeah.
And it'd been so violent that his brain was exposed. So he'd basically like put it through his head.
Awful.
Really, really horrible.
Now, Ken Tappenden, who was one of the detectives who was on the scene, he's very good because he's thinking about this and he remembers the check and he remembers the incident with Mackay.
Well, I guess you go, who's got motive for this? It's a priest. And everyone's like, well, everyone loves a priest. Oh, wait, well, there was that one guy a few years ago who fucking stole from him, who never paid the fine.
I think it was good to remember that.
Yeah, definitely.
And he instantly was like, I know it's him. And he got two other officers to go and find him. He remembered, Tappenden said he remembered that when he was charged with the forgery of the cheque, it became violent.
Oh, really?
So he said, so all these things sort of, like, right. They track him down to a hostel. He's told that he's staying with a family called...
Have you ever stayed in a hostel? Have we spoken about this?
I've never had, I can't bring myself to...
I had once when I was starting off in comedy. There was, you can't get back in time because of the trains. It was in Cardiff. And I stayed in this hostel and it was... I just remember sleeping fully clothed.
Yeah.
And not really sleeping because someone would quietly come in and I'm like... This stranger's going to rape me.
Yeah, it's like
it's such a high anxiety situation to sleep in.
I think twice I have booked into a hostel, like very early days of comedy, like you say. But then I was too frightened to stay in them, so what I'd just do, I'd just get the overnight megabus home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because at least it's marginally safer.
Yeah, But I just think, they're so great, aren't they? Because, some people are like, oh, we hostel all around the world and stuff, and it's a great way to meet people, but I'm like... All I feel is the oppressive terror of being murdered in them.
Also, I don't want to meet people.
Yeah.
That is my...
Got enough friends. I also don't want to have to shower with flip-flops on. It's that kind of stuff, isn't it?
The shop is closed. No more people. No more people.
Hit your quota.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm glad I snuck in.
Perfect time. You're in now. Once you're in. No more. It's like, oh, you've really got to meet this person. You'd love them. I'm like, nah, I'm done. No enough people.
So he was arrested for Father Crean's murder and then immediately suspected for these others, especially any the elderly people and the victims that had been stabbed or strangled during muggings. And apparently when he was he was arrested and put in prison, he was bragging to the other prisoners that he'd killed 11 people. Wow. So he was charged with 5 murders, 2 of the charges were dropped because there was a lack of evidence, and they're like, we think we can definitely get him on 3. So November 1975, he was convicted and sentenced to life.
Oh, we must say as well, when he was questioned, they couldn't shut him up.
Oh yeah.
He
confessed
straight
to
away.
loads.
He was just blurting it all out. Classic psychopath. He said about Father Crean, I just wanted to take his head off. And he admitted that he stayed with the body for about an hour watching him just in the water. And yeah, it's...
Jesus fucking Christ.
There's nothing... I don't think there's anything you can do with this man.
No.
Nothing.
He's so unwell. Well, there's just like... He clearly has a bit of his brain that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, like some people can't... You know, some people like smell words. He's just got a bit of his brain that means there's no empathy. It's terrifying. So he is one of Britain's longest serving prisoners. He went to Wayland Prison in Norfolk. Now, in 1995, he was eligible for release. In fact, this is weirdly topical because there's loads of newspaper articles about him from last month. Mm-hmm. Well, from June of this month, this year rather. So he was eligible for release. He didn't get released, spoiler alert.
Well, during the trial at the Old Bailey, they expected this really long trial lasted just 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because 2 psychologists said he's got a severe personality disorder. They're basically saying he's mad, aren't they?
I think he should be in Broadmoor rather than a prison.
They wouldn't take him.
Really?
Because you can't treat you can't treat a psychopath. So it's not like he's not going to get better. He's not going to get better. So you put him in Broadmoor, he's not going to help him.
Oh my God. Isn't that weird? Because that means that there's an element there where they think that Peter Sutcliffe, there is a possibility of redemption and recovery.
The thing is with Sutcliffe, though, I think the whole reason he was put in Broadmoor was because they knew if they put him in a normal prison, somebody would kill him.
Really?
Yeah. So I think they were like, better that he's in Broadmoor than in somewhere where he's... Because I think people would be rightly angry if he was murdered in prison. Because you want him to serve his time. You don't want somebody to just... It's a bit easier in a way, isn't it? I think I'd rather be killed than spend the rest of my life in prison.
Yes, I probably agree.
With someone like Sutcliffe, you've got to keep him alive. He's got to serve that sentence.
Yeah, so people feel like they've had redemption.
So I think that's...
Not redemption.
I mean, there's no way Peter Sutcliffe is of unsound mind. He's not. He's just a cunt.
Really?
Yeah, that's my opinion.
I wonder if we should do another in-depth episode on him.
I would love to do another episode on him because the one we did with Ed Gamble was great.
Yeah,
but it was very, very early on, and I think Sutcliffe should be a 2-3-parter.
What do you think, guys?
Yeah,
let us know
because it is in my top 3.
Yeah,
I'd love to do another one.
Well, let us know, guys, what you think. So he's been up for parole now 10 times. And he's basically been considered too high risk to let out. Like, no, you will hurt people if you're out again. They do say though that psychopaths mellow as they get older. Really?
Yeah. Apparently, that if they say that if you get into your 50s when you're a psychopath, you sort of chill out a bit.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a reverse midlife crisis. Yeah. So they want to basically. There's this constant conversation where he's applying for parole as recently as 2 months ago. And they're like, you're not... Because technically he's served his time. And then there's this conversation about like, okay, well, if that happens, we're going to reopen the investigation to the sort of 9 other people that we think that he killed. But then they're like, well, that's very expensive. Why don't we just keep him in? So, the Home Secretary and stuff is always... Home Secretary, is it? No, is it?
Yeah.
Is always sort of like... Whoever's in charge at the time has this problem. Because he's rescinded on those confessions, so there would need to be an investigation into them.
I think...
He's changed his name.
Oh, yeah.
To David Groves.
Oh.
And he's, since 2017, he has been in an open prison.
Right.
And then in the 90s, he went to Hull Prison, and he was actually in this specialist unit where they put the 10 worst criminals. That's incredible. It's like a weird Avengers thing, isn't it? Yeah. Like a special unit. So in there was Charles Branson, who immediately battered him in the showers.
Fucking hell.
And was like, well, I was screaming like a little girl.
You know what I always think about Charles Bronson? I always think, I know people go, he's not a murderer, he's just a very violent man, isn't he? I think if he was released, I'm 99% sure that if he was released, he'd probably be on something like Celebrity Big Brother.
I think you're right.
I think he'd become a reality.
Yeah.
I think there'd be a programme about him. I think he'd be hosting
documentaries on BBC Three. in a sheepskin coat, like wandering through a council estate.
100%. I genuinely feel like he'd become a TV personality.
If he's got anywhere near some charisma, he would,
Yeah. Not that I want that, because I'd think it would be awful, but weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have that feeling.
So he's, David Groves, as he's now known, is still in prison, and it looks like the conversation about whether he's going to come out or not is ongoing.
Yeah, he's not.
The last thing that was said about him was by Rory Stewart, who was one of the guys who was running for the Tory candidacy. You know, that weird-looking guy. He looks sort of like Gollum. And was like, come and meet me in a park and ask me questions. Fucking weird, all that, wasn't it? Really weird. I mean, I'm not even getting into it.
Meet me in a park.
Meet me in a park and ask me a question. And he was doing that weird thing of holding his hand up like he was doing a selfie, but someone else was filming it.
Oh. That's...
When the Tories try and be normal, it is like, oh yeah, they are lizards in human skin.
When they've seen other people do things and they try and copy it, and it just doesn't work, does it? Doesn't work. Bizarre.
He's also look at the pictures if you can of Patrick Mackay. He looks like he's in an indie band.
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he? There's some weird passport picture of him where he's like furiously eating a burger and then screaming, and it literally looks like a Strokes album.
It does. It looks a bit like Angus Young from AC/DC.
Yes, yeah. And there's a touch of the Richard Gadds about him as well.
It does look like Richard Gadd. I think there's
brilliant comedian.
There's a thing though, like when you see a photograph of somebody in that picture in the photo booth, he's just pissing about. You can see that.
Yeah.
But it's like the face of evil. It's like he was just messing about in a photo booth.
Yeah, it was, yeah. We're all the face of evil if you catch us at the wrong angle in a photo booth. I tried to have a picture the other day of my partner and I in a photo booth. There's a little black and white one in that art supply shop, Fred Aldous.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, can we get a picture? And he's like, my partner's really handsome and really photogenic. And he's like, yeah. And he was like, okay, if you want one. I was like, I just really like a picture of us together. So I'm sort of like sat on his knee in it. And I genuinely look like I've been in some kind of accident. I look so bad. For a start, I'm like much closer to the camera because I'm sat on his knee and I'm quite a big lass. So he looks like some tiny, like little beautiful waif. And I look like this giant who is like eating him from the anus up. It's so disgusting. I'm so shiny. At one point, like every part of my eye, the iris, the pupil, everything is all looking in a different direction. It's horrific.
Have you kept it?
Yeah, and I'm like, he's put it on the mantelpiece because he thinks it's hilarious. But I genuinely want to cry every time I see it. It really, most of the time I'm fine with having a partner that's like more handsome than me. It's quite a nice thing. But every now and then I'm like, oh my fucking God. Like it looks like he's secretly being paid to look after me.
No, don't be so stupid.
No, do you know what I mean? Like when you see him at his best and me at my worst, it's pretty fucking bad. So yeah,
I had one of those photo booth pictures done, and I'll be honest with you, one of them I just look like I'm being bummed because I'm so small in the foreground and he's tall in the background. It's like, yeah, there we go. It's on brand, isn't it? On brand. Yeah, I know dreams are boring, but I genuinely, like last night, I dreamt about my show and I just had this dream that somebody just kept shouting dry bumming at me in the show, and I was like, can you not do that now?
Yeah. People shout at me and I'm like, I want to be like, I know you think you're doing a fun thing, but I'm trying to do my job.
I have a family.
Yeah, and also just like, there's 400 people in this room who've got no fucking idea what you're talking about. And even if by the way, I do a podcast about serial killers, immediately the room has changed. And I go, and on it I had a conversation about anal sex. Room has changed yet again. But it wasn't me, I promise, it was someone else who gets bummed. Room has changed again. Oh, why is it dry bumming? Because
ladies and gentlemen, Pritchard-McLean.
Exactly, yeah. Welcome to the stage. Should we have a little think about... we'll put on the Facebook page, because we usually do collections. Mm-hmm. We're going to get in contact with some organisations up here and see what is the most useful thing that we could do a collection for if you guys wanted to bring some stuff along to the live show that we're doing up in Scotland. And with the other live shows, we'll give you a heads up on the Facebook page probably about a week before. Yeah. We'll decide like, we're going to collect Johnny's, or we're going to collect this or that or whatever. That's it. That is episode 62. 7 more episodes left. And let us know what you think about doing an extended one on Peter Sutcliffe.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. I'd like to do that.
Yeah, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.